Ajegunle, a densely populated neighborhood in Lagos, was known for its hustle and bustle. The streets were alive with the sound of traders calling out their wares, children playing, and the ever-present honking of buses navigating the narrow roads. Amid this chaos lived a young man named Tunde. Tunde was a 22-year-old student at Yoba College of Technology, studying mechanical engineering. He had returned home to Ajegunle for a short break before his exams. Despite the roughness of the neighborhood, Tunde had always felt safe there. He knew most of the people, and they knew him, a quiet, studious young man who kept to himself. That Friday afternoon, Tunde had plans to visit a friend in the nearby area of Apapa. He dressed casually in a red t-shirt and blue jeans, grabbed his backpack, and headed out. The sun was high, and the streets were busy as usual. He greeted a few familiar faces as he made his way to the bus stop, completely unaware that danger was lurking just around the corner. Earlier that day, news had spread through the community about a robbery at a local electronics store. The owner, a well-known and respected man named Baba Kazim, had been beaten and left for dead. The perpetrators had stolen several expensive items, including laptops and mobile phones. Word on the street was that one of the robbers had been seen fleeing towards Ajegunle. The description was vague: a young man, possibly in his 20s, wearing a red shirt. As the details spread, fear and anger began to build among the residents. They were tired of the increasing crime in their area and were eager to take matters into their own hands. As Tunde walked down the road, he noticed a small crowd gathered outside a popular bar. They were discussing something heatedly, but Tunde paid it no mind. He had no idea that the description of the robber had been circulating and that he fit it almost perfectly. Tunde was about halfway to the bus stop when he sensed someone watching him. He turned around and saw a group of young men staring at him intently. He felt a sudden unease, but he tried to brush it off and continued walking. "Hey, you! Stop there!" one of the men shouted. Tunde froze, confused. "Are you talking to me?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Yes, you. Where are you coming from?" another man demanded as they approached him. Tunde's heart began to race. "I'm just going to visit a friend," he replied cautiously. "No lie. I recognize this one of the men said, pointing at Tunde. "This is one of those boys that robbed Baba Kazim." The accusation hit Tunde like a punch to the gut. No, you've got it wrong. I don't know anything about that," he pleaded, but his words were drowned out by the growing shouts of the crowd that had gathered around him. Within moments, the crowd's anger fled. "Thief! Oh, we no go gree," they chanted as they closed in on Tunde. Someone grabbed his arm, and another shoved him hard. Panic surged through Tunde as he realized he was being mistaken for the robber. "Please, I'm not the one. I swear, I didn't do anything," Tunde shouted, trying to break free, but the crowd had already made up their minds. The first punch landed on his face, then another. Tunde stumbled, his vision blurring as the mob descended on him. As the mob grew more frenzied, a few voices in the crowd called for reason. "Wait. Let's hear him out," one woman shouted, but her voice was quickly drowned out by the chaos. Tunde's cries for help were ignored as the blows continued to rain down on him. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a man pushed through the crowd. His name was Alhaji Boko, a respected elder in the community who had known Tunde's family for years. He recognized Tunde immediately, despite the blood and bruises already covering his face. "Stop this madness!" Alhaji Boko shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. "I know this boy. He's not a thief. He's Tunde, the student from Yoba Tech. You're beating the wrong person." The crowd hesitated, their anger faltering for a moment. "Are you sure?" one of the men asked, still holding Tunde by the collar. "Yes, I'm sure," Alhaji Boko said firmly. "Let him go. Don't take an innocent life." Slowly, the crowd began to back off, uncertainty replacing their earlier rage. Tunde, battered and bleeding, collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. Alhaji Boko knelt beside him, shielding him from any further attacks. "Call an ambulance," Alhaji Boko ordered. This boy needs help. As the reality of what they had done began to sink in, the crowd dispersed, shame and guilt evident on their faces. The same people who had been so eager to deliver justice now realized how close they had come to taking an innocent life. Ton was rushed to the hospital, where he received treatment for his injuries. He had several broken ribs, a fractured arm, and countless bruises, but he was alive. The doctor said he was lucky. If Ajegunle hadn't intervened when he did, Ton might not have survived. News of the incident spread quickly through Ajegunle. The community was horrified by how easily they had been swept up in the mob mentality, nearly killing one of their own based on nothing more than a vague description. Ton's family was devastated by what had happened, but they were also grateful that he had survived. They thanked Ajegunle profusely, knowing that his quick thinking had saved their son's life. The real culprits of the robbery were eventually caught by the police, clearing Ton's name completely. But the experience left a deep scar on him. The trauma of that day haunted his dreams, and for a long time, he was afraid to leave his house. Ton's narrow escape became a sobering lesson for the people of Ajegunle. The neighborhood, known for its tight-knit community, had almost torn itself apart in a moment of collective rage. The incident served as a stark reminder of the dangers of mob justice and the importance of due process. As Ton slowly recovered, he found strength in the support of his family and friends. He knew that he had come close to losing his life, and the experience made him more cautious, more aware of how quickly things could spiral out of control. In the end, Ton's story was one of survival, a testament to the power of community when it stands together, not in violence, but in understanding and compassion. Ajegunle would never forget the day they almost made a fatal mistake, and the name Ton became synonymous with the need for justice tempered with humanity.